Hi guys, this is Bastien live from Singapore and Nico is in Madrid. We are on the 20th of February. This is the episode number 17 of the Decanted portfolio and we are super happy to be here with you to talk about wine and about markets. Hi Nico, how are you?
Hello Bastian, I'm very good, thank you. Good to see you in Singapore, almost the weekend.
Almost, yeah. It's almost end of day because it's close to 6 p.m. here. So people are starting to leave the office, and they are super happy to enjoy this weekend of the Chinese New Year celebration. So that's great. And today, I think, Nico, you want to talk about the new structure, I think, about this podcast, because we made the decision to change a few things for this episode.
Yes, thank you, exactly. First, I would say this podcast is brought to you by a sponsor, which is Pantar.ai with Pantar.ai Adapt. I am the founder, Bastian is the co-founder of this startup. We have been working to create this autonomous intelligence chasing dynamic beta in the market. Let me tell you in another way. We do autonomously adaptive asset allocation. What is this? Asset allocation is investing your own money in public markets, not chasing the single stock or name or idea, but managing a full portfolio well diversified across different asset classes. Imagine stock markets and indices, government bond markets and indices, or commodity indices, okay? The way we do it, instead of being a traditional private bank setting a static portfolio for you for the long term, our autonomous intelligence adapts the asset allocation of our investment portfolio depending on market conditions. Markets keep shifting every day. Pantar.ai Adapt, which is an active ETP or an investment strategy that we have listed on the London and Amsterdam stock exchanges every day, works autonomously to change the asset mix in our portfolio to adjust to market conditions. What we want to achieve is reliable, consistent investment performance across any macro regime, across different market conditions. It means lower drawdowns, less volatility, and in the medium term, faster performance. So this is what we are working on, and this is the sponsor of the podcast, is the first thing that I wanted to say. Second element, we have been talking to you in the previous episodes about market dynamics and the past week in markets to then move about wine ideas that were resembling the feelings and the emotions of markets. But now we'll jump into wines immediately, and we'll expand the conversation to interesting stuff that has been happening in the past week, not only in markets, but also what is relevant for all of us in the life of a new startup, new technologies, market changes, market beliefs, and eventually politics. So we'll try with this new structure from today. First, some disclaimers, Bastian, right?
Yeah, of course. So as we will always talk about wine, first thing, super important, guys, please remember, be responsible, drink responsibly, don't drink and drive. That's super important to stay healthy. And second, of course, this podcast do not provide you financial advice. You're invoiced, of course, we don't know your own situation, and you need to invoice according to your personal situation. So today, I think, Nico, we are going to talk. So when we think about wines, about two different regions. I will talk about USA. I mean, go back to the US, but because we talked about California several episodes ago. And this time I want to talk about East Coast, which is maybe quite unusual because this is not what you think first when you think about wine in the US. And you, Nico, I think you will talk about Spain, if I'm right.
Yes, what we want to discuss today is this, and we'll speak about the technology update later, wines first, but the idea is that AI is disrupting the life of everyone in terms of employment. It is attacking different sectors across markets. We all text each other with friends about the very latest new AI developments. But we will discuss later that AI is a massive productivity improvement, but it pulls you down in the middle if you are an expert. If you are a non-expert, it elevates you to a good middle. We'll explain this later, but the wine cases for today are two regions on the edge. Away from the good but famous Bordeaux, Chianti, Riojas, or Californias, today we'll discuss about something on the edge. Finger Lakes for Bastian here, you will explain in a second. And we'll go with Nico, with me, on the Galician white Albariños on the Spanish Oceanic coast. Okay, two peculiar regions. I don't say anything else anymore. Bastian, you kick off with your part.
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Nico. And you're totally right. I mean, Finger Lake is definitely a region, on the edge. And if we look at this region, I mean, first of all, do you know, Nico, where are the Finger Lakes? Because there are several lakes. There are 11 lakes, exactly.
Wow.
So where are these 11 lakes?
I have never been in my life, but I studied the region. It's a beautiful one. You will explain why. We are in New York State, going towards
Absolutely.
the north.
Yeah, so for the ones who know the US, of course, you have New York City, which is the completely southeast part of the state of New York. State of New York is a big state, this massive state, one of the most important in the US. And this is the state which goes from New York City to Niagara Falls, if you may want to make it simple. And the Finger Lakes are basically in the middle of the road between New York City and Niagara Falls. And that's why I had the chance to visit these locations 20 years ago. Yes, that was a long, long time ago. But it wasn't, I wanted to go to see with my girlfriend to visit Niagara Falls, and we thought, okay, this is a long road. This is winter time. It was winter time, so cold, icy, snowy road. And where could we stop? And of course, we both love wine with my wife. We say, okay, let's go there to have a look. And we were not disappointed, I can tell you, because this is very specific. I would never had imagined to find wine in this place because the winters are super cold, super extreme. Of course, you can have minus 20 degrees, even less, because it's just a little bit south of Canada, very close, of course, to the border. And you think maybe it's too cold to get wine. Mm-hmm. However, because of the unique climate and terroir, it's possible to do wines. And do you know why, Nico, we can do wines? What is the reason why we can do wines there?
But I think like in the famous river-prone or river-excavated valleys, when you have some water, this will temperate, right, or regulate the temperature.
And that's exactly the reason wine. So, Finger Lakes, so lakes means there are 11 lakes. Mm-hmm. Why Finger Lakes? Because you have to look at your hands, and because on the map, they look like basically your finger. Exactly. They are more or less the geographic partition. Right, yeah. It's exactly like this. And so this is one lake, a second lake, third lake, fourth lake, etc. Uh-huh. And you have this structure, and you have some lakes at very, very, depth. They can go up to 180 meters, not kilometers, mm-hmm. depth, and therefore they are able to store the heat during summer, mm-hmm. because the water, of course, is a very good tool to control the climate and the temperatures. And during summer, of course, it's very hot here in New York because it's a continental climate, so they store the heat. Mm-hmm. And during winter, even if it's minus 20 outside, the heat of the water is still spread around the lake, mm-hmm. and then you are able to keep basically the vineyards in good conditions. Of course, it's frozen, but not too deeply, not too much, mm-hmm. and therefore it's the perfect place to get Riesling, because Riesling, in Germany, of course, is a very cold climate, and mm-hmm. it's the paradise of Riesling. They do very good wines, and therefore, some point in the mid-50s, a German came and decided that it was possible to make wine there, and they decided basically that it was the opportunity to try to grow this wine. And if you go to the original vineyard, I can call it like this, mm-hmm. So Constantin Frank, they are very well known and very good reputation for doing a very good Riesling with a lot of acidity, a lot of minerality because of the soil. Mm-hmm. And just for your information, for people who know Cornell University. It's also the place of Ithaca city, where Cornell, was opened on the 19th century in 1865 to be precise. So that's an interesting story because this is like quite unusual space to do wine and do some decent wine. They also do red wines. And I tasted them because when I was there, of course, I did some tasting. So Pinot Noir, Cabernet Sauvignon, but honestly, not very good to be honest. So I will skip that part. If you see some wine from here, you can go definitely for the white wine, specifically the Riesling. It's super interesting to try. What about Spain, Nico?
Now, let me tell you something. I was checking on my phone first.
Oh yeah.
And this is the state of New York. And in the state of New York, going towards the north, you see this area with the Finger Lakes with exactly the shape that Bastian was describing. So a bit improvising here with the phone, but that's a good wine map to have in mind. Thank you, super interesting. So Riesling wine from the cold, good density in Finger Lakes, hard to find outside of the United States, but it's actually quite a pleasant, well done white wine. So they've been successful in doing these wines there. Of course, less a land over red. This would be a climate where eventually the Pinot Noir would survive, but is not necessarily successful there. On my side, we are at the edge of the wine territories. And we go towards a place on the edge of Europe. And the edge of Europe is the oceanic coast of Galicia. If you don't map this in your mind, take Spain, go on the left of the map, Portugal, just north of Portugal. From Madrid, you take the car 5 to 6 hours, depending on where you go. There will be some first Greenland, which becomes dry, big valleys close to the wine region of Toro, which you will have to cross and you get closer to the ocean. And these coast in Galicia, from the top north in La Coruña down to the border with Portugal, this wine area is known as Rías Baixas, which you would read in, with a different accent, it would be Rías Baixas, but they are said Baixas here in Spain. And so this is a territory of high cliffs, is the end of the world in Europe. And these cliffs, similarly to Finger Lakes, create some bays. Imagine that this is the border with Portugal. There's a bit of land, and you go into a ria, and then another ria, and another. These are deep fjords in Spain, which create a very interesting microclimate. Close to Portugal, if you go away from the ocean, the weather is already very hot on average in the year. So it's not necessarily a good place to do the style of wines that you find in Rías Baixas, which is known for being a great territory for white wines as well. And these are white wines with oceanic influence, very peculiar, not wines for hot summers and hot weather. So I come back to a map in my hand. Border with Portugal is very hot on average. You go towards the ocean, and this first southern part in the Spanish side of the border contains two territories of the Rías Baixas. And then you go up and you'll find two more, including in the more famous ria north of Pontevedra, where Sanjenjo is. Okay, I will show you a map at the end of this. Or maybe let me look for my phone as well, not to bring you the maps on the screen as we have done the other times, just improvising the dialogue a bit more here. Rías Baixas, you will see. I'll explain why the territory is so peculiar, and it will emerge that there are some of the most peculiar white wines that you will find in Spain. So we are in the north of Portugal. This is Galicia, and you will see in yellow and orange the southernmost part of the wine territory, and then other territories in the Rias, which are these fjords that I described. Super peculiar climate. The ocean is windy, and it tends to be at good temperatures in the Spanish summer, but it's cold in the winter. Good oceanic white wines exist Only in France is the part of the Côte de Loire, Muscadet, if we want to consider Bordeaux slightly removed from the ocean for the peculiarities that we have discussed in another podcast. So very difficult to do wines of good structure very close to the ocean. But the Rias in Spain, with the high mountains, they elevate the heat and they reduce the influence of the tides of the ocean. So there's a bit of freshness coming. The summer is never too hot, if not for just a couple of weeks in August or the end of July. And so the temperature is ideal for white wines. But the problem is the mold. All the humidity that comes and doesn't go away is an issue for normal grapes. And so in Galicia, it is grown a special thick-skinned white grape, which is called Albariño. Albariño comes out with good quality only in Spain, but there are new experimentations with Albariño both in South America and in Australia. And Albariño is capable to resist to this excess humidity and mold that gets created there. One more thing, the structure of the wines is done in a pergola shape. So instead of having the wines coming out and taking sun, like in cold territories, you have like a rooftop of wine leaves, and then the full structure protects himself from the mold. So Albariño is the grape. It comes out a wine, which is the most interesting white wine in Spain, together with some white Rioja that we will discuss another time. It is a wine which has a citrusy zest. It has white stone fruit inside, which would be similar to other white wines from Southern Europe. But the curiosity is that it is not only high in salinity in your nose, close to the ocean, but it is also in general very mineral. So it feels like smelling and tasting an oceanic stone on a beach, but with a good flavor of white fruits and some lemon. Really, really pleasant in the summer, but also a delicious pairing with the beautiful seashells and fish coming from Galicia. If you don't know it already, Spain is now one of the top spots for food on the planet. The amount of Michelin star restaurants in the territory is staggering. Galicia is less fancy, it's more about the local produce. Fish is incredible, and Albariño is exactly the right wine that goes with this fish, and it is consumed all across Spain and now exported to Europe because of these characteristics. So we are at the edge of two territories, north in Finger Lakes, Albariño in Galicia, but also the winemaking techniques, the Riesling from the cold or the Albariño on these oceanic hills, full of mold, but with the delicious climate away from the very hot Spanish summers, makes out a very good wine. I just wanted to mention as last thing, if you are not into Albariño yet, or if you are part of our Spanish crowd following the podcast, Paso de Barrantes, top-notch Albariño, Paso de Señorans, very good average quality for money, Ferreiro, Fefiñanes, and the bigger volume produced but still high quality Terras Gaudas in different labels. There's a black label, which is a higher type, higher quality, all delicious Albariños to pick up from, okay? All small producers, all local producers, very good job done there by the Spaniards, okay? So this is my update on wine in general.
Yeah, and this wine is really getting traction. Like more and more people are talking about it. It's getting more and more popular, and even outside of Spain, because it's starting to be really well known. Yeah.
Yes.
Very interesting wine. Yeah.
Thank you, Bastian. So we have closed now the first section on wine with the different structure in the podcast. And we said that, we'll fade down or not only discuss about financial markets, but expand the view towards different conversations. And I would ask back to you first, because we are gently fading away from the previous podcast structure. What has been your impression of markets this week as an investor? What has been on top of your mind as key conversation this week?
No, I think this week has been, I would say, confusing. I mean, absolutely no clear direction. I would use maybe this adjective like foggy, or maybe a little bit spoiled or tainted, because it's difficult really to understand where it goes. I think the market was pretty clear over the last years. I mean, if you look at the performance, there was some clear trends. And for the last week it's been more and more difficult to understand where it goes. And if you look at performance, if you look at basically what happened, we have like some small decrease. Even if you had some volatility was not, was quite high. But in the end, after 1 week, S&P is down, Nasdaq is down, Dow Jones is down, but like 1%. We are talking like 1.5%. So we're not talking about like big, decrease, but still some movement. Silver is down, and Nikkei was a little bit down also this week, which is not the past trend for the last weeks. And on the positive trend, we have like more Europe, so like Euro stocks, 50, 600 in France, in Spain. Bitcoin started to have a little, positive trend, and gold also is a little bit positive. So it's really confusing, and what we can say, in my opinion, is like we have seen like the Europe resilience. We have seen a small pivot in crypto because it's been very difficult for crypto value over the last weeks. Inflation is starting to come back in the different conversations. So we don't really know if interest rates are going to decrease in the US as expected. We are not really not sure now. And maybe I think the main topic is the AI hangover, because AI, and this is what I was saying at the beginning of my talk about like markets. It was very clear for the last maybe 2 years, because AI was like driving the growth for all the markets. The Max 7, was so fantastic as an investor, but now these days there are a lot of questions around AIs, and that's why some values are going up, down, and there's like collaterals on the market. So maybe Nico, I think if you could maybe give us some light here on this topic, I think would be helpful for everyone.
See, thank you, Bastian. So on the market, you said, well, it's confusing. There are some pockets doing better and others doing negatively. It depends on the week and the leaders change. So the market pack in general is staying in a range which is very, very limited and with a lot of volatility because there's no leaders, there's no trends. I would also say in general that the job that we try to do in markets is exactly this of, in the medium term, avoiding some unexpected crashes and problems. Software stocks, some are 25% down from the record. So if you were investing in Nasdaq 10 years ago, you would have made a lot of money. And of course, the money would be slightly less today, but still a lot of money. But for who has been investing in the Nasdaq from last summer, thinking that it was still a great investment, didn't work very well. And so the idea of working with Pantar.ai to delegate to a system, to know where to go and which risks to avoid, is exactly about avoiding some negative unexpected turns. This is the first element. The second is on AI, and this is where we expand the podcast a bit away from markets. And we want to share a couple of interesting stories this week about our usage of AI in general. So let me say that the general debate, I'm sure you will all read the news and get some WhatsApp texts from friends saying AI is eating the world and a lot of different things are happening. AI is causing some concerns, which is about employment. AI is becoming better. We get the answers that we want. There will be less need of junior resources in companies because the summary, the minutes, the ideas, the research is all done now by these LLM models, Claude, Anthropic, ChatGPT, Gemini Pro, etc., or Perplexity. And that's fair. We get a good summarized view of the world, a good piece of research on some good summaries or rewriting of our emails, and it is all, it feels like magic. So is AI going to replace us is the big question. On the other side, we have a threat towards some industries in the stock market. We discussed last week, Anthropic is gonna attack law firms because it can be your lawyer for much less price or cost. And then it will attack logistics companies because robots will change all of this, etc. So this idea that AI is magic and will not stop and it will take away the jobs of the humans is one of the key concerns that is out there. There have been interviews with the CEO of Anthropic saying we need to stop this development because it can be dangerous. I will not go into the technicalities of explaining that these big LLM models are still statistics. They are fed with an incredible amount of data. Consider all the literature that exists on the planet, and the training makes these computers not really understand but simulate the use of human language, and they feel like humans. We talk, we discuss, and they provide answers. It's great. It's not really a generalized intelligence because it's statistics, it's a simulation, but it's very useful. So let's consider that the simulation will continue to progress. Now, I think that AI is magic on one side. It may replace some human work, but we need to understand, and I will tell you about my experience this week, that AI is pulling us, as we mentioned at the beginning of the episode, towards the middle. So this is the literature and the human knowledge, which is mapped by these models. But when we ask these models to get an answer, to rewrite our email, to provide a better view to our research, we are moving towards the center, the good organic summary of the center of the knowledge that is here. So, if we are not writing an email well and we are pulled above with a 50% improvement toward the middle of what is good writing, it feels that our email is much better. Our executive summary is much smarter, clean, professional, and it feels like, wow. Not many are thinking that if you are a good writer or journalist, or if you are researching on an edge of the human knowledge, you will be pulled down towards the middle. And so this work is not anymore good help, it's just uniforming an edgy view, which is why we've been talking about edgy wines, because there's a lot of value being on the edge of things. And so while we don't know what is going to happen, AI is not going to replace everything. It's improving our life to get closer to this 50% improvement, but there will be pockets of society, people that are going to be pulled towards the middle. My example is that we are working with Pantar.ai towards maintaining and supervising this autonomous intelligence that we have. We work with our singular AI algorithms, our intelligence. We call it internally Cartesio or Cartesio, coming from Descartes, the famous French character, which was all about science and knowledge, back in the past. And we call it AI internally, but we don't advertise it very much because first, we don't want to be on the top of just the marketing popularity because there's quite some interesting content there. It's a peculiar architecture. It's a forward-chaining open AI expert system. It's not an LLM. And this is an opinionated system that uses human knowledge and historical past knowledge of markets, and we delegate to this system not finding out what is a good investment per se, but mimicking the human classification of variables every day to find out a good insight on where to invest. The AI software or an AI algorithm can be defined AI because it simulates human intelligence. LLM ChatGPT is a good simulation on language. We are trying to use a replica of human intelligence to classify, organize, and understand hundreds or thousands of variables every day without using machine learning, which is another common algorithm, okay? The point that is interesting here is that inside the work that we do at Pantar.ai, we also maintain a technological infrastructure. We use computer processing. We store data before and after our model processing in a database. And we did a work to improve and scale our database infrastructure, okay, creating different clusters for faster processing before trading. And I am not a structural engineer, and we have been developing, I've been developing the code of Pantar.ai, but I don't know how to do everything every day. And so to improve the database infrastructure fast, I have been using the help of Gemini Pro, which Bastian and I have access to as part of Pantar.ai as a company. A couple of interesting things here. First, if I tried to ask generic questions to Gemini Pro on how to improve a database infrastructure, I would get a very good answer without any practical immediate suggestion to do it. So without any software engineering knowledge, I would not be able really to create my infrastructure the way we have it from scratch with the LLM. So you need to have some skills. And with these initial skills and with an existing infrastructure, which we coded as humans, I could pass the information very specifically to Gemini Pro. And with those specific levels, I got some good answers. And I could make amendments to our software structure to work. It has been a good 1 day of going back and forth. It's not immediate. And so I was able to do it with AI without paying an external engineer to do it. But to be honest, between Bastian and I and you listening, I would have not scaled the database clusters now in our early stage just by paying an engineer to do it, because it's a nice to have, but we could have been waiting for later. So it's not that AI has been replacing a job. It just gave me a faster way to process towards a better and faster infrastructure. So instead of replacing human jobs here, I have become more productive at doing this. And this was me not being very knowledgeable of databases within the software engineering world, but I was pulled up towards the center of a knowledgeable infrastructure or data science architect managing databases. This is great. But then I look at the other flip side of the coin. A few friends have been sending me this week WhatsApp chats. There's a family member appearing on the back. Hello. We are all working from home. And so this friend is saying, why don't you use ChatGPT to create an investment portfolio, which is similar to what Bastian and I do? And this article was on the Financial Times. And so if you ask to ChatGPT or equivalent to create an investment portfolio, you get a fantastic initial answer. This investment portfolio, depending on your objectives, needs to be so much in stocks and so much in bonds, and it has to go into private markets and private credit. And if you don't know anything about this, it's like, wow, I don't need a financial advisor anymore. ChatGPT does everything. But as we come from the industry, while the ChatGPT answer is an incredible advancement, and in fact, it is also a solid initial answer to how to start your investment portfolio, it is true there is a question that moves from not knowing towards a higher ground, towards the 50% medium where you didn't know before, and now you have a good idea. But as we are in the industry, my question is, okay, how do you change that portfolio, which looks smart on paper, depending on market conditions? What happens if inflation will spike? What happens in the case the US will go to war with Iran with the spike in energy prices? What happens if there's a recession and you will slow down? Does it make sense to buy stocks at this high, expensive level with no trend, as you were mentioning, Bastian? Lateral markets, very volatile, waiting for some bad news to happen. Was the ChatGPT smart generic portfolio good for the market conditions? And my answer is no, it was probably not very good. And while AI...
But definitely join what you were mentioning before, like you have some pockets which are working and some pockets which are not working, and which require even more attention on basically what's going on in the market. Because if you are positioned on the pockets which are going down, of course you need to react very quickly and to be able to adapt. To switch and to move to shift to the good assets.
See, so of course this is a good claim for what we do here at Pantar.ai, and we'll go into that for a second. But the point is not much to promote what we do here, but the idea is that AI, yes, it gives an initial good answer, but you are still in the middle. So if you want to be on the edge of being a good investor, you need much more. And so first, AI shouldn't be concerning so much to us. Second, it is very good when you already have some skills. If you have some skills, it makes you really fast faster and more productive, but then you are still pulled towards the center. The center is not good enough to ride market conditions. And so first, pay attention because you still need good professionals if you have access to them. Second, if you want to do something different, we have an autonomous engine that looks in a much peculiar way at how to manage the optimal portfolio in all the edge cases. So out of this general interest discussion that we are proposing here, if you as human, you can provide content to your clients or teams at the edge of what is normal, there will always be value brought from you. Second, it is great for everyone to start from a topic where you don't know, to go towards the medium. But if you are in the top 50% of a topic, industry, mansion, work, context, you may just be losing out by going to ask for the happy medium to an AI. Don't be so concerned. Use AI to your advantage. And if you need to be on the second half of good investing, AI is here with Pantar.ai with a peculiar different model. And so this was the conversation. Wines at the edge, good value on the edge, great AI improvement to go towards the medium. We developed a model to go from the medium to the top. But in general, there will be a lot of value by staying at the edge. And so this is what we wanted to share here today in a different way at the margin of markets. And I would say this is all from us. Get in touch. Write to us hello@Pantar.ai, Bastian@Pantar.ai, or Nico@Pantar.ai. Follow us on Substack, Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube. And I would say goodbye. Bastian, do you have anything to add, to say goodbye to our friends?
No, goodbye. And again, happy Chinese New Year to people living in Asia, because that's an important celebration in this part of the world.
Yes.
Of the world, sorry.
Happy Chinese New Year again.
Yeah.
Happy weekend in general, and goodbye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.